The RiConfigure project is really about new actors and constellations that are emerging in innovation and how they work together. We want to understand what are the criteria of success that drive people to collaborate across sectors in innovation. We want to understand the roles that new actors and existing actors play in collaborative innovation. We want to understand the types of constellations that exist, and we do all that to identify good collaboration practices, responsiveness and responsibility in these constellations, and governance frameworks and their effects on these new constellations. We analyze new constellations in innovation by looking at the world through a so-called quadruple helix framework. We search out 100 cases, at least, that qualify as quadruple helix, and we analyze the characteristics of these collaborations in 3 different layers of analysis. When we talk about quadruple helix, we mean innovation cooperation models in which organizations from research, industry, the public sector and civil society cooperate in order to produce innovation that is beneficial for society. And with innovation, we really mean anything that is considered useful for the cooperating partners to address societal challenges. When we select cases to look at, we emphasize, first of all, that they somehow qualify as quadruple helix constellations, meaning that we want all of these 4 sectors to be represented at some point in time in the case. We also emphasize collaboration, meaning that we want them to consciously be collaborating actually. It's not enough to just have some kind of interaction, we want a collaborative interaction. We want to look at cases that consciously aim to address societal challenges, and we qualify our curiosity by saying that these cases must be cases where research and innovation have some substantial role to play. We analyze the characteristics of these cases in 3 layers of analysis. The first layer is internal collaboration. How do people make the collaboration work in practice? The second layer is interactions with the surroundings. How do the collaborations assume responsibility in relationship to society in the broader sense? And the third layer is about public governance frameworks and their impacts on these collaboration cases. How do the governance frameworks hinder or help collaboration and innovation? Now, the big picture, when we talk about a case of quadruple helix innovation, is that if you sort of envisage a quadruple helix collaboration case as something like a project or a platform or a common strategy of collaboration, then that case plays out against a much broader environment of sectoral interactions between these different helixes. So civil society interacts with research, the public sector and industry in many different ways in practice. What we're looking at are cases where that interaction is somehow systematized and organized, and we are very interested in also understanding how does a case of quadruple helix innovation influence the broader sectoral patterns of interaction. The 3 layers of analysis that we make use of in RiConfigure are collaboration practice, responsible research and innovation, and public governance frameworks. We want to understand the dynamics of collaboration, how responsiveness vis-à-vis society is achieved, and how policy can support quadruple helix innovation. So this first layer, the collaboration practice, is really central because collaboration, quadruple helix theory is currently very much at a meso or even a macro level. It looks at societal interactions from a very sort of far away perspective. We want to get into the micro level of collaboration practices. And we are especially interested in understanding the very sort of basics of the collaboration, looking at how do people involved in these collaborations build a structure of collaboration. How do they foster interaction between actors who might not normally be used to interacting or really have a clear incentive for interacting. We want to understand how they keep a focus on creating value, and we also want to understand how do the people who sort of manage the collaboration seek to facilitate learning between the different actors involved. So that's the first layer of analysis. The second layer is the question, how does a case of quadruple helix innovation assume responsibility or responsiveness in vis-a-vis the rest of society? And the third layer of analysis is governance frameworks, governance support. We want to understand the various roles that public governance actors can play. We want to understand the institutional arrangements that they set in place to stimulate quadruple helix innovation. Now, to understand all of this stuff, we are going to gather a lot of data. The data gathering mainly takes place in the 4 social labs, where we have the opportunity to interact with currently running quadruple helix collaborations and to understand their day-to-day concerns. We do supplement that with an extensive desktop study that allows us to reach this goal of at least 100 cases being analyzed. It's also important to understand that this data gathering then feeds into a cross-cutting analysis that looks across all of the different cases that we study. We analyze the cases on each of the 3 layers. We want to understand how factors in each layer correlate with success of the collaboration, success defined as the collaborators define it. But we also want to understand how do the different layers interact. Is there any kind of constellation of factors that lead to success, for instance, governance frameworks that help particular collaboration practices to succeed? All of this then leads to the production of a series of handbooks aimed at practitioners in each of the different helixes, and a handbook for policymakers to support quadruple helix innovation. And these will be developed and refined with stakeholders.